After 3 years of loyalty, she revealed an unexpected secret that transformed their life forever. Sarah's heart raced as she hurried down the main street of their small town, its dusty roads painted gold by the setting sun. A hard day's work weighed heavily on her shoulders, but the thought of Jake's upcoming art competition pushed her forward. He had poured his heart into his art, channeling every worry, every dream, and every sacrifice into every brushstroke. This could finally be their opportunity, a chance for a scholarship that shimmered like a distant star, promising freedom from the weight of bills and worries. Yet there was a secret coiling tightly in her chest, nearly choking her. She used to be an artist too. The vibrant colors and expressive lines of her past art lay hidden in a box, relics of a dream stifled by life's harsh demands. Each piece was a reflection of a woman who dared to dream before responsibilities crowned her head with burdens. She felt a tear well up as she thought of the canvas whispering her name, begging to be touched once more. But unveiling her past could spell disaster, unraveling everything they had fought for. The stakes were too high. When Jake stumbled upon that hidden box in the attic, the world felt like it was tilting off its axis. His wide, curious eyes lit up as he pulled out her paintings, a kaleidoscope of colors and emotions. "Mom, these are incredible," he called, holding up a painting full of swirling blues and bright yellows. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" In that moment, Sarah's heart thundered. A strange mix of pride and fear coursed through her veins. She smiled but felt an avalanche of doubt descend. Should she reveal the truth? Show him her passion, her failures and hopes? Or protect him from a future she feared he would have to relive the relentless cycle of work and sacrifice? "Jake," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Art isn't always the answer, it can lead to disappointment." His face fell, disappointment clouding a light that once burned bright. She saw pain in his eyes, and it stung more than any wound. In that instant she felt like she was cloaking him in shadows. She turned away, conflicted. But deep inside, Jake's artist spirit ignited. He threw himself into creating an art piece that spoke of their lives, of struggle and resilience, reflecting everything they had been through together. Each stroke of the brush was a battle cry, a testament to the sacrifice and love shared between mother and son. As the competition day loomed closer, anticipation crackled in the air, heavily laden with unspoken truths. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day of the competition arrived, and the community gathered. Faces turned, whispers floated. Sarah's heart raced. Would they see Jake's pain? Would they finally understand her unspoken burdens? When Jake unveiled his artwork, the collective gasp from the crowd resonated like a thunderclap. Emotions poured forth: tears, admiration, and a dawning recognition. His painting told their story, and for the first time, Sarah felt her past and present collide. As Jake stood proudly beside his masterwork, Sarah faced a choice: hide behind fear or step into the light of her own truth. She held her breath, waiting for the ground to shift beneath them. The air was thick with anticipation, a tangible energy pulsing through the crowd. Jake stood there, the painting glistening in the sunlight, and Sarah felt the world sharpen into focus. The sea of faces reflected back a medley of emotions: curiosity, admiration, and deep within her, a flicker of hope. She wanted to bask in this moment, but the weight of what lay unsaid suffocated her. As the audience leaned closer, their expressions morphed from wonder to concern, especially when Jake opened his mouth, ready to share the story behind the piece. "This art," he began, his voice steady but soft, "is about my mom. She dreams of painting. She was incredible once. But life made her put it away." A murmuring spread among the crowd. Sarah's heart sank. Had he just thrown her deepest secret into the light? Could this be the moment where the truth might set her free, or would it destroy everything? Mom, Jake continued, his gaze unwavering, I wanted to show everyone how strong you are, how we fight together. His eyes sparkled with a fierce determination, urging her to embrace the truth with him. We're a team. You taught me that, right? His words struck something deep within her. The warmth of pride surged momentarily, mingling with anxiety. A part of her longed to walk away, to bury the past again, certainly for Jake's sake. But another part broke through the dam of fear. Couldn't she reclaim the artist in her? One brave soul in the crowd stepped forward, an older woman with a gentle smile who spoke up. You're amazing, dear, she said, reaching out a hand towards Jake. Your mom's spirit is in this piece, art is her heart and soul, and you've shared that beautifully. Those words resonated with Sarah. The realization crashed over her like a wave. It wasn't just Jake's moment, but hers too. So, she took a deep breath, the world narrowing to one single point, the canvas that held their story. Jake, she called, her voice breaking just slightly. May I say something? He nodded, handing her the spotlight. Stepping closer to the painting, she could feel the warmth radiating from the colors, enveloping her in a sense of belonging. Hands trembling slightly, she faced the crowd, vulnerability weaving through her emotions like thread through fabric. I've hidden from this, she began, her throat tight. I thought it was for Jake's protection, to shield him from disappointments. But art is where the heart makes sense of the chaos. I let fear bury my dreams, and I didn't want to spread that shadow on you, Jake. A hush fell over the gathering. Tears skated down her cheeks. Yes, it was time for rebirth. The colors of her past didn't have to remain trapped. They could breathe again. I want to paint again, she declared suddenly, louder this time, her voice gaining strength. And I want to do it with you. Let us embrace this dream together. Gasps broke out, followed by applause. She smiled through her tears. She met Jake's gaze, and in that moment, the current of their shared past surged alive between them. Love, risk, and newfound courage. As applause poured from the crowd, Sarah felt lighter, as if she had transformed before their eyes, just as her son had captured their lives on canvas. She had stepped into the light, but shadows still lingered. Would they support this newfound dream? As questions hovered, a thunderous cheer erupted around them, one that surpassed mere applause. And in that moment, Sarah knew that the road ahead held both promise and uncertainty, filled with canvases waiting to be painted. But then, a figure stepped through the crowd, a familiar face from her past, bringing with it a flood of emotion, shame, joy, and confusion. Sarah, they said, voice edged with something Sarah couldn't quite place. The moment stopped, and all her resolve trembled on the edge of the unknown. What would this reunion mean for her journey as an artist, and more importantly, for the future she hoped to share with Jake? The applause faded into an uneasy silence, as the figure stepped forward, illuminating the uncertainty that surrounded Sarah. It was Emma, her old friend from art school, the one who had always believed in her talent. They hadn't seen each other since Sarah had retreated into the shadows of her own life, cutting off ties with the world that reminded her of her dreams. Jake, Emma said softly, her eyes darting between mother and son. You did this? There was a mix of pride and uncertainty in her voice. Yes, Jake replied, his confidence unwavering. We're going to work together. Mom wants to paint again. Emma's gaze turned back to Sarah, and for a moment, it felt like time rewound to the carefree days of endless creativity. Sarah, I miss you. I heard the news about everything. I wanted to reach out, but what? Sarah could hardly breathe, emotions bubbling just below the surface like boiling water. You just disappeared. I thought you'd left for good. I was scared. Emma's voice trembled as she took a step closer. The crowd, momentarily forgotten, held its breath. After everything, I didn't know if I could come back without facing my own failures. Sarah could feel the warmth from the painting still pulsing through her, and suddenly it felt like both a shield and an anchor. Emma, I've been scared too. That's why I stopped painting. I didn't want Jake to bear the weight of my regrets. But what if you let him see you? Emma's eyes sparkled, a universe of potential in them. What if we let him in on our past, the struggles that shaped us? Maybe it could help him understand that he's not alone. A lump formed in Sarah's throat. But I've hidden so much from him from both of you. That only makes you human, Emma replied gently, her expression softening. Look around you. This crowd feels your pain and your joy. You've inspired them all, now it's time to inspire yourself. Jake, sensing the tension, squeezed Sarah's hand. Mom, what happened in the past doesn't define our future. We're writing our own story from now on, right? His sweet, innocent faith washed over her like a balm. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes again, but this time, they were tears of gratitude and understanding. I forgot that we could create from our pain, she murmured, her voice steadying. And from our joy, Emma added. It's all part of living, and as artists, we have the power to turn both into something beautiful. The words settled in Sarah's heart, igniting the desire she had buried so long ago. Okay, let us do this. Together. Let us paint all of it, the beauty and the hurt, she declared, feeling the spark of determination rise within her. The crowd erupted in renewed applause, invigorated by the connection that had just unfolded. But just as the energy soared, a shadow passed over the stage. A figure stood at the back, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Sarah felt her heart race as a sense of dread trickled back in. Mom, Jake called, pulling her from her trance. What's wrong? The familiar face was now etched in distrust, a reminder of an old chapter she had hoped to leave closed. Sarah, he said, booming forward with authority. I need to speak to you. We can't just ignore the past. Sarah tensed at the sound of his voice. This was not how she envisioned the next chapter. Would her dreams shatter once more under the weight of old secrets, or could she forge ahead through the storm? As she met Jake's worried eyes, Sarah knew there was no turning back now. The canvas of their lives was waiting, and this time, it needed to be filled with honesty, courage, and maybe redemption. The air felt electric as Sarah stared at the figure who had re-emerged in her life, a ghost from her past that she had tried so hard to forget. Mark. His presence loomed like a dark cloud, stirring anxiety deep within her. The chaos of the gallery faded into the background as the memories returned, vivid and painful. Mark, this isn't the time, she managed to say, her voice shaky but determined. She turned to Jake, who looked from her to Mark with confusion. Who is he, Mom? Jake asked, his grip tightening around her hand. The crowd shifted, their attention gravitating toward the unexpected confrontation. A mix of curiosity and concern filled the room, and Sarah felt as if the walls were closing in on her. He is someone from my past, she replied slowly, her heart pounding with each word. A mistake I thought I left behind. Mark stepped closer, his expression unreadable. A mistake? Is that what you call it, Sarah? You didn't just cut me out, you erased an entire part of your life. His voice was a steady rise, challenging yet oddly vulnerable. Tension crackled as silence enveloped the gallery. Sarah could feel Jake's confusion. But Mom, you said you were going to be honest with me about everything, he whispered, clenching her jaw. Sarah wrestled with a wave of emotions. She longed for the strength to protect Jake, but at what cost? I never wanted you to see me like this, Jake. I wanted to shield you from the mistakes I made. Mark interjected, his tone softening just a fraction. But those mistakes shaped who you are today, Sarah. You can't keep hiding from them. You can't keep running. Jake looked between them, searching for clarity. What are you afraid of saying? With her chest tightening, Sarah realized she could no longer hide. I was with Mark once, Jake. It didn't end well. I hurt him and myself. Each word felt like a weight lifting off her shoulders, even while the shame clawed at her insides. I thought if I pretended it never happened, I could protect us both. Mark shook his head. Denial won't change the truth, Sarah. The truth is, Jake's voice cut through like glass. Mom, just tell me. What happened? A silence fell. Sarah could see the fear bubbling in her son's eyes, and it struck her. This moment could either shatter their bond or make it stronger. Things got messy between Mark and me. I lost control and I ran away. I thought I could start fresh without the burden of it all. But I learned running only leads to more pain. The weight in the room shifted. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, empathy filling the void left by her revelation. Sarah sensed their support, but Mark still held a storm in his gaze. "What do you want, Mark?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and resolve. "Why are you here now?" Mark's eyes softened, revealing a flicker of the man she once knew. "To tell you that you don't have to face this alone. I want to help you. We both need to confront what happened." Jake stepped closer, his small frame a shield of innocence. "Mom, you don't have to deal with this by yourself. We're a team, remember?" Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes as she faced her son, the weight of the moment heavy yet full of potential. Maybe it was time to lay bare the truth not just for herself, but for Jake, for them both. As she prepared to speak again, an unexpected sound echoed from the back of the room. The door swung open, and another familiar face stepped in. Sarah felt her heart lurch. What had she done, stirring the waters of her past? The air thickened with unease as she looked back at Jake, and then at Mark. She had unknowingly opened a door, but who or what was coming through it now? The crowd gasped collectively, a soft wave of whispers rippling through the gallery. There was an unmistakable shift in energy as eyes darted toward the newcomer. Sarah's heart raced, and a bead of sweat formed at her brow. The figure stepping through the door was Grace, the sister she hadn't seen in years, her face a canvas of mixed emotions. "Sarah?" Grace's voice was shaky, a mixture of surprise and disbelief. She was thin, her eyes wide, darting around as if trying to comprehend the scene unfolding before her. Mark took a step back, the tension in the air almost suffocating. He hadn't expected Grace. Her sudden presence felt like a complication they didn't need. Sarah's breath caught as she struggled to find the words. "Grace, what are you doing here?" Grace hesitated, glancing at Jake before locking eyes with Sarah. "I heard there was an exhibit tonight, decided to surprise you." Her expression darkened as she took in the tension between Sarah and Mark, the messy history hanging like a storm cloud over their reunion. Jake tugged at Sarah's sleeve, confusion still etched across his brow. "Who is she, Mom?" Grace's gaze softened at the sight of her nephew, and she knelt down to meet his eyes, her voice turning gentle. "I'm your Aunt Grace, sweetie. I've missed you." Sarah's heart ached as she watched this moment unfold. It struck her that she had kept so much hidden from both Mark and Jake. The connection they could have had, the family bond woven through shared memories and love, had been severed in silence. "Why did you disappear, Grace?" Sarah's voice trembled. "After Dad, I thought you'd chosen to stay away." "It has been years." Grace's eyes glistened, a swirl of emotions. "I thought you didn't want me around. You were moving on, building this life with Jake, and I was lost." "I needed you," Sarah replied desperately. "I always needed you." In that breathless moment, 1,000 unspoken words hung in the air. The truth, in all its complexity, began to surface. Mark's voice cut through the tension. "And what about me? Do I fit into this family reunion, or am I just another ghost haunting your past?" Sarah winced at the pain in his tone. She had not meant for any of this to happen. "Please, this isn't what we need right now," she pleaded. "And you, Grace, you don't have to dredge up old wounds." As the crowd continued to shift uncomfortably, Jake stepped between his mother and his newly discovered aunt, his youthful optimism unwavering. "Can't we all just talk? Maybe we can fix things?" Space took on a fragile kind of tension, a moment where the past collided with the present, and the future dangled in uncertainty. Grace glanced at Jake with a mixture of tenderness and sorrow. "I wish it were that easy." Mark, feeling the weight of emotions around him, traced his fingers along the edge of the display. "Maybe it's time we talk about everything, then. All of it. Because hiding only prolongs the hurt." Sarah felt her heart race. There was something liberating in his words, a thread of truth that could bind them together, or tear them apart. What if opening up could finally set them all free? But as she opened her mouth to speak, the gallery doors swung wide again, and another familiar face stepped in, casting an even darker shadow over everything they had just begun to face. "Not so fast, Sarah," the newcomer said, his voice a chilling familiarity that sent a shiver down her spine. What more could possibly unfold tonight? The crowd fell silent, a collective breath held in anticipation. Sarah's heart thudded loudly, drowning out the chaos around her. She turned slowly to face the newcomer. His presence was a crack through the fragile facade they had just begun to build. Eric? The name slipped from her lips like a prayer, but it hung in the air like a curse. He stepped closer, a devil-may-care smirk plastered on his face, but his eyes were notorious for carrying a haunting familiarity that sent chills through her. I missed you too, Sarah, he replied, each word coated with a chilling sweetness. Still pretending everything's just fine in your perfect little life? His gaze shifted from Sarah to Mark, then to Jake, who remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. What are you doing here? Mark's voice was steady but tightly wound, like a taut string waiting to snap. He stepped protectively in front of Sarah and Jake, a silent plea for her to step away from the specter of her past. Eric shrugged, the air thick with tension. Just thought I'd check in on my old friends. Heard about the gallery, thought it would be a good time to reconnect. Jake furrowed his brow. Who are you? Innocence colored his voice, and it hit Sarah like a punch to the gut. She wanted to protect him from the truth, but how could she when it was pulled tight around her like an old, faded sweater? Let's just say I was not the best brother-in-law, Eric said, smirking. The title hung heavy in the air, like a weight threatening to drag her down. Sarah felt the walls of her carefully crafted world begin to shake. You shouldn't be here. Not tonight. The boldness in her voice surprised her. She had learned to stand up to him in silence over the years, but now, with her family surrounding her, her courage surged. Grace stood to the side, looking as if she had just stepped into a battlefield. You have no right to come back here, she spat. You left us. You gave up. Eric shrugged again, but his smirk faded slightly. He turned back to Sarah, his tone darker now. And you think you can play happy family, huh? All that heartbreaking history buried away? It doesn't work like that. Mark stepped forward, fists clenched at his sides. Enough of this. You need to leave now. You don't belong here. Or what? Eric leaned in, an unsettling grin dancing on his lips. Are you going to fight me, Mark? You know how well that would turn out. The name hung in the air like a curse. Memories flooded Sarah's mind, pushing against the edges of her resolve. The fights, the secrets, the shattered remains of the family she had tried to rebuild. Jake seemed puzzled, caught in the crossfire of confusing adult emotions. What's happening? Let's talk outside, Sarah finally blurted, her own voice catching her off guard. Away from Jake. Eric raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Now you want to talk? Yes, Sarah insisted, her heart thundering. But only if it's only us. You can't keep dragging people into this. The silence felt heavy, and Grace placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, her support warm against the chill of the moment. Well, I am curious to hear what you have to say, Sarah, Eric replied, the mischievous glimmer back in his eyes. Maybe tonight is worth more than I thought. As Sarah moved toward the door, she could feel the weight of every eye in the gallery upon them, the air thick with anticipation and dread. What lay ahead felt uncertain, a deep dive into dark waters where she hadn't been in years. She turned back one last time. Grace and Mark stood firm, concern etched onto their faces. Don't worry, she whispered, though she felt anything but certain. I'll figure it out. But as she walked into the unknown, questions loomed like storm clouds. What would Eric reveal? And what would it cost her this time? The cold night air hit Sarah like a wall as she stepped outside, Eric's shadow following closely behind. The stars above shimmered in the deep blue sky, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing in her chest. She took a deep breath, trying to center herself, but all she could think about was how his presence felt like a match struck dangerously close to a powder keg. Why now? She turned to face him, her voice barely above a whisper. After all this time, what do you want? Eric leaned against the gallery entrance, arms crossed, his smirk never quite disappearing. I told you. Just checking in? Isn't it nice to catch up with an old friend? Friend? The word felt foreign. You haven't been a friend in years. You've been gone. The grin faltered for just a moment, and Sarah caught a glimpse of something raw, something vulnerable behind the bravado. Gone, yes. But perhaps not by choice. What is that supposed to mean? She challenged, crossing her arms defensively. The world isn't always black and white, Sarah. We have our reasons. You wouldn't understand. She shook her head, feeling a mix of anger and pity. I understand my life was shattered because of you. Because you chose to leave. Eric pushed off the wall, moving closer, his eyes narrowing. And you still think you've built something perfect with Mark? You think living in a little bubble will keep the past at bay? His words stung, but deep down, a part of her was terrified he was right. Enough. She took a step back, refusing to let him in. I have a family now. A life. You don't get to waltz back in and pick at old wounds. Family? He laughed, but the sound was devoid of joy. Is that what you call it? Or is it just a distraction from the chaos? Sarah felt the weight of his words, a rush of memories flashing through her mind. The nights spent dreaming of a life without Eric's chaos, the moments Mark and Jake brought joy back into her world. But there was also the pain, the scars that lingered just beneath the surface. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice trembling. She felt cracks forming inside her composure, as if the fortress she had built was beginning to crumble. I want you to face the truth, he said softly, his tone shifting, more sincere. You can't keep hiding behind this facade. There's so much you don't know. What don't I know, Eric? What could you possibly say to make this right? It's not about making things right, he replied, stepping closer. It's about understanding. There's something from our past that could change everything for you, for Jake. You need to hear me out. Panic rose inside her, but there was also a small spark of curiosity. Her heart raced. She wanted to push him away, yet a part of her felt drawn in. Why should I trust you? She snapped, but her voice wavered. Because it's the only way to move forward, he urged, desperation creeping into his voice. The only way to protect the family you have now. She hesitated, caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. As much as she wanted to deny him, a heavy feeling settled in her gut. What if there was truth in what he said? What if there was something buried that could unravel the very foundation of her new life? Just as she opened her mouth to respond, a loud voice interrupted them from inside the gallery. Sarah? Are you okay? It was Mark, his voice strained with concern. Sarah felt herself torn. She could return to the safety of her new life, or take the plunge into Eric's world of secrets. Just a minute! She shouted back, then turned to Eric, their eyes locking for what felt like an eternity. What do you know? Eric took a deep breath, his expression shifting from playful to serious. You want to believe me, but you need to. There's something you should see. Something that could change everything. As his voice trailed off, a sense of dread and excitement curled in her stomach. She had a choice to make. Would she step back into the shadows of her past, or keep that door permanently closed? The storm was brewing, and somewhere deep down, she knew tonight was just the beginning. What was he really hiding? Sarah's heart raced as she grappled with the weight of Eric's words. The chill of the night seeped deep into her bones, but it was Eric's presence that made her feel the coldest. Every instinct screamed at her to walk away, to cling to the life she had rebuilt, yet the questions loomed larger than the door to the gallery behind her. What could possibly be so important? She demanded, her voice steadier than she felt. If it had any impact on my family, I would be heard about it. From you or anyone else. Eric sighed, his gaze drifting to the ground, as if the answers were hidden in the concrete at his feet. It's not what you know, Sarah. It's what you don't know. There are things I did, things that led me away, things I can't change. But they're not just about me, they've affected you and Jake too. The mention of Jake sent a sharp pang through her. He was her everything, the light in the shadows left by Eric's absence. Protecting him was her priority. How could she allow Eric into her life again? Stop it! She blurted. You're not making any sense. You think you can just come back and say these things, and I'll trust you? You think I'm going to risk everything for some vague promises? It's not vague. Eric stepped forward, the tension in his shoulders palpable. You think you're safe, but you're not. Whatever I know could put Jake at risk you can't even fathom. Her breath caught. What do you mean? What could you possibly know that could impact my son? He looked deeply into her eyes, and for the first time, there was no mask, just a haunting sincerity. I can't tell you here. It's too dangerous. But I have evidence, something concrete. You just need to trust me to show you. She shook her head, her thoughts spiraling. Trust you? After everything? You expect me to just follow you into whatever mess you've made? This isn't about me, it's about Jake. Eric's voice broke slightly, a crack in his bravado that drew her closer against her will. You think Mark can protect you from the truth? You don't know what's lurking in the shadows. Hidden dangers you never left behind because you didn't let them go. Taking a step back, Sarah felt a rush of heat flood her cheeks. You don't know me. You don't know what I've built. I know enough, he countered, gesturing to the vast night sky. I know you're still tethered to your past. It's not just about moving on. The words struck her with the force of a cold wave. They rippled through her, making her reconsider every moment she thought she'd escaped. Her life felt that much more fragile, and in a world crafted of illusions, could it all really collapse? Fine, she said, her voice firm despite her shaking hands. If you're telling the truth, then show me. But if I see the slightest hint of manipulation, you'll regret it. Eric nodded, relief shimmering in his eyes, and took a step back to give her space. Just trust me. I'll take you to it, and you'll understand. As they turned to leave, Sarah felt an unmistakable tug in her gut. What had she just committed to? She was stepping into territory she didn't quite understand, trading certainty for uncertainty, and that was terrifying. As they walked toward the darkness in front of them, uncertainty loomed like the looming storm clouds above, ready to burst at any moment. Yet ahead, in the distance, a light flickered faintly, a glimmer of something that felt distant and familiar. What is that? She whispered, half to herself. But Eric merely kept walking, his shadow merging with hers, leaving her to wonder what awaited them in the depths of their intertwined histories, and how the revelation would change everything she thought she knew. Would she find the truth buried deep, or perhaps discover the greatest secrets of all were hidden where she least expected? The flickering light grew brighter as they walked, casting wavering shadows against the walls of the alley. Sarah fought the urge to pull her coat tighter, not because of the chill in the night air, but from the unsettled feeling in her chest. It's just up ahead, Eric said, glancing back over his shoulder. His face held a mixture of hope and apprehension, and she could feel his need for this to work. She swallowed hard, wanting to believe him, but years of hurt and doubt echoed in her mind. The further they walked, the more familiar the surroundings became. The vibrant street art that cluttered the walls filled her with bittersweet memories. This was the part of town they roamed when everything felt alive and carefree. But now, it felt twisted, a reminder of what had been, and what could still be at risk. What are you hoping to find here? Sarah questioned, keeping her eyes on the path ahead. You think this is just going to fix everything? No, he replied sharply, the urgency in his tone palpable. I'm hoping to show you the truth behind it all. That's where the answers are. The light they approached illuminated an old building that had clearly seen better days. Broken windows gaped like empty eyes, and the aroma of dampness mingled with the faint scent of paint. Sarah's heart dropped as she realized where they were headed. This had once been the studio that Eric shared with his friends, their creative haven. I can't believe you would bring me here, Sarah stammered, her pulse quickening. Every inch of this place told stories of their past, both good and bad. What does this have to do with Jake? Just trust me, Eric urged as they reached the entrance. He paused and turned to her, searching her face. You need to see this for yourself. A shiver of dread skittered down her spine. She looked up at him, trying to gauge whether he meant it. His eyes held a mixture of fear and determination, and for a brief moment, she felt a flicker of the connection they once shared. They both took a deep breath and stepped inside. Inside the studio, dust motes floated in the air, dancing under the shaft of light that poured through a cracked window. Old canvases were stacked against the walls, some half-finished, others left to decay. It was as though time had paused in this sacred space, filled with remnants of dreams and aspirations. "Why here?" she breathed, feeling the weight of the memories suffocating her. "What are we looking for?" "I found something last time I was here," Eric replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something that might protect Jake. Something that could explain it all." He moved toward an easel in the corner, where a sheet lay draped over what seemed to be a large canvas. Heart racing, Sarah followed closely, every instinct screaming for her to run. Instead, she found herself captivated by the possibility that lay beneath the canvas. As Eric pulled it away, what she saw made her breath hitch, a painting so vivid, it seemed almost alive. It depicted a moment she thought only existed in her dreams, a family standing together, happy and whole. But lurking in the shadows of the artwork were ominous figures, dark and twisted, their shapes hinting at her deepest fears. What does this mean?" she asked, her voice trembling. Eric's hand shook slightly as he pointed to one of the figures hiding in the shadows. "It links back to a deal I made. A deal that has repercussions far beyond what I realized. This isn't just art, Sarah. This is a warning." A wave of realization crashed over her, mingling with a mixture of fear and hope. "You're telling me this painting can actually help us? If you're willing to see the truth, we can uncover what it really means. But it won't be easy. You might not like what you find," he confessed softly, pain edging his voice. Sarah felt her chest tighten. Could she handle the truth? Would it help protect Jake, or would it shatter the fragile world she had fought so hard to build? As the weight of Eric's words hung between them, she swallowed hard. "All right. Show me." With a nod, Eric laced their fingers together, sending warmth rushing through her, a spark of trust igniting in the cold that surrounded them. They were in this together now. But as she stepped closer to the painting, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that some secrets were too dangerous to uncover. And as the realization dawned, an unfamiliar voice echoed in the back of her mind. What if learning the truth could change everything they held dear? Just then, a loud crash reverberated through the studio, making them both jump and spin toward the sound. Darkness blanketed the doorway, and in that moment, they realized they were not alone. The air turned electric, tension crackling like static. Sarah's heart raced as she instinctively moved closer to Eric. Shadows loomed, revealing a figure emerging from the darkness. Mark, followed closely by Jake and Grace, their faces etched with concern. "Sarah, what's going on?" Mark demanded, his voice firm yet clouded with worry. Behind him, Jake's eyes were wide, innocence mixed with fear as he clutched his mother's hand. "Stay back!" Eric shouted, stepping protectively in front of Sarah. "This isn't not what?" Mark interrupted, taking a step forward, his confidence unwavering. "You aren't the one to dictate who's safe here." Jake's small frame was barely visible in the chaos, and Sarah's heart broke at the sight. He deserved to be shielded from this world of secrets. "Can we just calm down?" she pleaded, trying to keep her voice steady. "Eric has something important to show us." The weight of her words hung heavily in the air, blurring lines as each soul grappled with their inner fears and prior baggage. What could he possibly say that would justify dragging you into this place? Mark frowned, eyes locked on Eric, who seemed to shimmer with a mix of hope and dread. "Mom?" Jake's whisper broke through the tension, his small voice filled with worry. "What's happening?" Sarah knelt beside him, cupping his face in her hands. "It's okay, sweetie. We're just figuring a few things out. I need you to trust me." She turned back to Eric, determination sparking in her chest. "We all need to know the truth." Eric nodded, looking suddenly vulnerable. "You need to see this together." He stepped forward, revealing the painting once more. The vivid colors and haunting figures danced in the flickering light, overshadowing the room with unspoken weight. Mark stepped closer, peering at the canvas. "What is this?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "It's not just a painting," Eric responded, his voice steady, resonating with past pain. It's a reflection of our lives, the choices that can haunt us. I made a deal with forces I didn't understand. The figures represent consequences, bad ones. His gaze locked onto Sarah, conveying the severity of it all. A flicker of recognition passed through Sarah. So you mean to say our past isn't just ours anymore? It can affect Jake? Panic tinged her voice, and she could hear the quiver beneath. All she wanted was to protect her son more than anything, to shield him from the storms of their past. Yes, Eric said, his tone dropping to a whisper. They returned to reclaim what was lost. I didn't know enough. This is insane. Mark cut in, disbelief washing over his features. Maybe, but it could be the key, Sarah interjected, her heart racing. What if being here can set things right? A surge of courage ignited inside her, propelled by the love she felt for Jake, Mark, and what they were building together. We have to confront whatever it is. She turned to face her son, dropping her defenses. Jake, I need you to trust me. We can't allow fear to dictate our lives anymore. We're stronger than that. Tears welled in Jake's eyes as he nodded, his small voice steady. Okay, Mom. We'll face it together. Together, Grace echoed softly, stepping forward, lending her support. Eric's shoulders seemed to relax. If we stand united, we can make our own fate. But we have to understand what we're dealing with. All right then, let us do it, Mark said, determination radiating from him. We'll face this head-on as a family. Sarah felt the bonds strengthen. With Jake by her side, Mark's fierce loyalty, and Grace's comforting warmth, they formed a united front against the shadows that had loomed over them for too long. The painting flickered in the dim light, brightening with their burgeoning resolve. Eric stepped back, his eyes scanning the faces of the assembled family, the weight of their collective past hanging in the air, mixing with hope. Together they reached toward the painting, each placing a hand against the canvas, joining their hearts into one. As they closed their eyes, colors erupted, memories swirling. They were drawn into a vision where shadows receded, overtaken by scenes of laughter, togetherness, and love spread across years. Shadows thinning, secrets giving way to light. When Sarah opened her eyes, the room felt different. The heaviness that had loomed was gone, seeping away like morning mist before the sun. They had transformed their pain into something beautiful, something that would no longer haunt them. I feel, Grace began, glancing at them as hope ignited her voice. Free, Sarah finished, pulling them all into a group hug. They stood there as a family, stronger and transformed, embracing the beauty of their imperfections. As they stepped back, the gallery erupted in applause, echoing encouragement and admiration, ringing through the air like a beautiful symphony. Sarah turned toward her crowd, tears of joy streaming down her face, and smiled, no longer hiding but shining in her truth. And in that moment, Sarah realized they had woven together strands of hope and resilience in a tapestry of shared strength. Their past no longer defined them, but spurred them on. Each note of pain transformed into a melodic chorus of triumph. Jake's bright eyes shone with pride, while Mark and Grace stood resolute beside her. It was time to create a new story together, to embrace the beauty of life and the bright canvases awaiting. Let us go home, Sarah said softly, knowing they would navigate whatever came next together. While the night grew calm and the stars sparkled above, the echoes of their triumph resonated through the warm embrace of the dawn that awaited them, marking a new chapter in their lives where love, courage, and the art of family would always reign. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Don't wait not even one more second to share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Remember, only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.